when we're going through these different transitions, whether it's divorce or empty nest years or a new job, and you're kind of feeling a little uncertain. And I would ask my friends, well, what do you want?
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, it was, I don't know.
Right. Right.
And I was like, how do we get to this point in our life and we don't really even know what we want because we've been so busy on the treadmill, checking the boxes of shoulds and have-tos, and completely disconnected from who we are and what we want.
Yeah. Welcome to the That's Where I'm At podcast. I'm Laura, happily divorced after spending years with a narcissist. I believe keeping secrets will make you sick and that they always come to light in the end. As women, we're often told to be quiet, don't share your story, don't talk about the things we go through. It's making women sick, sad, and suicidal. We don't have to be on the other side to share our story. This show is for the women still in the middle of the mess, but showing up bravely as they heal. It's time to share these stories with each other so we can learn, grow, and heal together. I'm Laura, and that's where I'm at. Please take note that this episode may contain subjects that may be triggering to certain listeners. Please take care when listening today. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today I have Debbie. Debbie is the vibrant force behind the New World Normal podcast, a space where questioning and disrupting societal norms is not just encouraged, it's the main event. As the host, Debbie dives into insightful conversations with guest experts and thought leaders exploring how we can break free from norms that no longer serve us. In her coaching practice, Debbie is a guide for values-focused individuals ready to disrupt their personal norms. She empowers clients to challenge all of their shoulds and have-tos, helping them align with their core principles rather than societal expectations. So welcome, Debbie. I'm so glad you're here.
That sounds so great. I love that intro. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I mean, you wrote it, so yes, it was great.
I think you
But you
edited
know
a little
what?
bit. I'm like, that sounds better than what I sent her for sure.
But you know what? It's really great when you can hear it, right? Because then you're like, okay, that does make sense and it sounds good. Like when someone reads it back, you know. But oh my gosh, a lot of good stuff. And I know that a lot of people I have in the past have struggled with that. What do I have to do? What we should do? Those kinds of things, and I know doing I went to college, got married, had children thing, and then it's still like, bleh, disaster. You know what I mean? Even though that was what I was supposed to do, quote unquote. Right. So tell me how you got into that, into coaching about that.
Well, I got into coaching about that because I got to a certain part of my life and I did all the things I was supposed to, shoulds,
Right.
but I was
Right.
still feeling a little less than fulfilled, like thinking there's got to be something more to this than that. And then talking to my friends and my peers, the same similar age group, like when we're going through these different transitions, whether it's divorce or empty nest years or a new job, and you're kind of feeling a little uncertain. And I would ask my friends, well, what do you want?
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, it was, I don't know.
Right. Right.
And I was like, how do we get to this point in our life and we don't really even know what we want because we've been so busy on the treadmill, checking the boxes of shoulds and have-tos, and completely disconnected from who we are and what we want.
Yeah. Well, and that happens, right? We get to a point where you go, okay, what's my life? If I wouldn't have gotten divorced, I don't know if I would have said, what does Laura want to be when she grows up? Even though I was, 55 years old at the time, it's like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I think I was on that treadmill because I think you look at that and say, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then you get to a point where you go, but maybe this isn't what I still want to be doing, right? We have that empty nest years, like you were saying. Things kind of change when we have big life changes, maybe like I had a divorce. So,
Mm-hmm. And I bet you look back now at that divorce, although it probably didn't seem so at the time, but in hindsight, oh, what a gift that was.
yeah,
So that kind of shook me up and gave me the permission to examine what I'm doing and what do I want to be when I grow up, those kinds of questions.
Right.
And my thought is like, why do we have to wait for the big life transitions or the big
Right.
things that grab us by the shoulders? Why don't we start thinking about it now and like checking in
Right.
with ourselves? So that's kind of what led me to where I am coaching,
Okay.
how I am coaching, rather.
Right.
Because the idea of coaching, when you look back in rear view mirror or hindsight being 2020,
Right.
it makes perfect sense that I found myself in this field because I feel like
Okay.
I've been doing this all along, right? I'm the friend that was the good listener. I'm the one that if there was a problem, I could help you think of 20 different solutions because I'm really good at looking at situations from lots of different angles. I naturally
Yeah.
played devil's advocate, much to the adults in my life's frustration. But
Right.
it's led me to a place like, oh, okay, people will pay me to help them look at things differently. And
Right.
that is now a strength as opposed to just an annoyance
Right.
for some
Exactly.
people.
For some people. No, but I totally get it because people say that to me all the time. Like, have you thought about coaching? Or, well, they say being a therapist. I'm like, I don't have time to become a therapist. But also I enjoy coaching because I do like that concept of helping people with their goals in the future. But I'm not at that point yet. That's not what I'm doing. But I do like talking to people.
Just wait because it starts with the podcast. The next thing you know, like, maybe I want to be a
I
coach.
know. Oh no, I know. It's crossed my mind because I do have friends who ask me about things and it's those I think it's true when you are that friend. I'm not a devil's advocate necessarily kind of person, but I am that person. It's like, come on, let's see how we can fix this. Because it does take some work. What kinds of things have you had happen in your life that you said, I want to make some changes? Like, did something happen in your life? Tell us a little bit about that.
So did something. It's like I call it the mini layers of fucked.
Right.
Like, how many times can the universe like spin you around and expect you to keep moving forward?
Yeah.
Like it was and I kind of feel like there is, I don't know if there's anybody woo in your audience, but I'm definitely woo
Yeah.
adjacent. And I feel like there is something to that. The
Yeah.
universe, the powers that be, whoever's in
Right.
charge, whatever you think, keeps throwing challenges, tests.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it's part of my hero's journey. But any good movie has that plot twist
Right.
and that
Yeah.
challenge
Something happens. Right.
and I feel like sometimes we just get a series of those until we get to the point of like, okay, I think I'm supposed to be doing something differently because this is not working. And for me, it was one year in particular, 2017. I had the spring of 2017 where I lost my mom somewhat unexpectedly.
Okay.
Like she was sick, but she was not. There was no prognosis that she was going to pass that quickly. Um,
Okay.
I also was having my own serious medical
Yeah.
issues that summer I ended up having 3 surgeries. And then at the end, I'll go at the almost 12 months to the day from losing my mom, I
Yeah.
lost my another close relative, my little
Yeah.
cousin, who he was my closest family member.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
but before that, in between the bookends of losing loved ones, I was at the Route 91 shooting, which we talked a little bit
Yeah.
about. The
Yeah. October 1st in
October
Las
1st,
Vegas.
Las
Yeah.
Vegas, nation's
Yeah.
largest mass shooting
Mass
at the
shooting.
time.
Yeah.
I think it still is.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's hello,
Yeah.
wake up.
Yeah.
Like you need to do something about this because I feel like up until then I was experiencing things that my body was probably processing as trauma, but I was certainly not recognizing it as such.
Oh, okay.
And that's really the difference. I know people talk a lot about trauma, and I don't believe everything is trauma, but what I think people don't understand is trauma isn't necessarily about the event. It's about how your body interprets the event.
Okay.
So people can debate whether that X is traumatic or why is traumatic and
Yes.
whether it's big T trauma or little T trauma.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there were things in my life that were traumatic that I, number one, wasn't processing and not recognizing, but my
Mm-hmm.
body was.
Mm-hmm.
And there was probably part of me that was thinking, maybe I should talk to somebody about this because I'm really feeling a certain kind of way.
Right.
But also, therapy's not super accessible. It's a pain in the ass to find it.
Yeah.
And hard to find a good one.
Right.
And am I really sure? Do I really need it? Like other people go through much worse things than this.
Right. Yeah.
But when it came to the shooting, it was very obvious. Like
Right.
this is a traumatic event.
Right. Yes.
Maybe I should talk to somebody about it. And luckily, I live in a small community, and the hospital administrator in our community pulled us all together, the friends that were at the concert together.
Oh, okay.
And he had an experience with an active shooting event. So he talked to us all about how we might be feeling. And then he brought in a PTSD specialist, and the PTSD specialist was talking about the symptoms and the way we might be feeling. And I thought, oh, yeah, all that sounds very familiar, but I've been feeling that way for a long time.
Oh my gosh, before the shooting?
Since before the shooting.
Oh.
So that was my first clue that, okay, maybe there's more going on with me than just this one single event. And then, of course, when I did start talking to somebody, because I was like, okay, let's jump through the hoops of finding a therapist and talking to somebody.
Yeah.
And I recognized that there were other issues in my life, starting from childhood. Because they weren't that bad, quote unquote, that bad.
Right.
I wasn't giving them the attention that they needed, and I wasn't taking care of myself to process those feelings. Right. So did that answer the question? Yeah. All right, remember what your question was.
No, it did. It did, but I want to talk a little bit about what kind of things were you experiencing in your body? Now, this is not to say that, because everybody experiences trauma or things from the past differently, right? I mean, what you experience may not be what other people experience, but I have to point out too that sometimes we live with things for so long, they just become part of us, don't they? That we're just living with these things, whatever traumas you were having in your body, and you're like, oh, yes, that has been, that is an issue. So what kinds of things had you experienced? I mean, I don't know if you remember or not, but what kinds of things were happening in your body that you were like, oh yeah, that's what I've been experiencing?
Well, and for me, the symptoms that were leading up, like that I was experiencing prior to meeting with that PTSD specialist, it was more cognitive things and like showing up emotionally, or my capacity to hold certain circumstances, or the way I was showing up as a mom, I was before making dinners and baking cookies and doing some of those traditional type things that I wanted to do as a mom and I enjoyed doing as a mom. And then it got to a point where I realized like I was not even packing lunches. Like those kids were fending for themselves. And I was like, when did that happen? And why did that happen? And it was kind of a slow, I just was having a hard time keeping the proverbial shit together, keeping my proverbial shit together. And so things were dropping off, and it was getting to more of what do I need to survive, and for us all to survive, as opposed to, those extras and the fun things.
Instead of thriving, you guys were really at that surviving point. Okay, so that's interesting. And so you didn't really know that was happening, or maybe I feel like sometimes I was in a marriage for 33 years with someone who was abusing me and I didn't even pay attention. You know what I mean? Until you get to the point where you go, that was happening to me.
Well, it's like that analogy, which I really don't like this analogy, so I'm sorry to use it, but
of boiling the frog. Yep.
Yes.
We have talked about it on almost every episode. No, because it's true. The poor frog is in a pot, right? And it's that analogy of the frog is being boiled to death and they don't even notice. First, they're just sitting in the pot going, this is a really nice hot tub.
Yeah.
And it's sad, right? We just don't notice what's going on until, like for me, until one day I was like, I learned about narcissism and all this stuff. And I was like, holy crap. And to you, when your friend who was also a mass shooting survivor was like, so this is what you're going to be dealing with. And you're like, So I wonder what we could, what people need to be aware of in their body or what's going on in their life. I don't know how they will, maybe hearing this, you might say, oh, yes, I did have an issue and I did have a trauma somewhere along the way. And maybe I am letting things drop off and things aren't working the way they used to. How can we encourage them? How can we help them notice things?
I feel like if they have an idea that something was traumatic to them, then it probably was.
Yes.
I think what gets in the way is we think about, oh, one thing I don't even like to talk about the shooting because
Yeah.
people will say, oh, well, I wasn't at a shooting. So like, I don't need, like,
Right.
because up until then I'd been doing the comparison game of like, well, that
Yes.
person had it so much worse than
Yes.
I did.
Yes.
I couldn't possibly take up that space of needing that help.
Yeah.
And so if you're feeling like something was traumatic to you, it probably was. And talk to somebody. There's trauma coaches now,
Yeah.
even following. I know social media can be
Yeah.
um
Iffy.
iffy, like there's the
No,
good
but
and
there's
there's the
a,
bad. But if you can find a reputable
yeah.
person, a trauma coach
Yeah.
that has training, because that's the other thing is life coaching isn't necessarily regulated. So a lot of people
Yes.
haven't gotten any certification.
Right.
But if you can find somebody that has and follow their Instagram or Facebook or
Yeah.
wherever you're playing on social media, and there's a lot of good information to be had.
Yeah.
And for me, it came to recognizing I didn't want to live the way I was.
Okay.
Obviously, if you've experienced some trauma, you're also probably experiencing some of those symptoms of like feeling less than connected to yourself and your life, a
Yeah.
little bit of numb. Maybe you're leaning on medicators more, like
Yes.
which could be drugs and alcohol, but could also be shopping and eating
Right.
and
Right.
Netflix. That's one of my favorite medicators.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're leaning on those heavily and you're unsure why, peel back some of that, either with, a trained professional, with yourself.
Right.
Like I kind of feel that therapy, and I'm not a therapist, this is not medicine advice,
Right.
but I feel like it can be,
Right.
it's like gatekeeping. Like it's not accessible to all of us, right?
Okay.
Because you have to pay for it. And
Right.
um,
Yeah. I guess it depends on your insurance,
yeah, if you're
but
insured, but
right.
even most people with insurance,
Right.
finding a decent therapist
Right.
that's going to accept the insurance payment as payment,
Right.
it's,
And then, well, that's the thing, finding a good one, making the time, because if you're working and all those things, and that's really key too, because I found a good one, but I'm not letting her go until I really need to, because it's hard to find a good one. And that's the other thing. I do like your suggestion of looking on social media because I have found some really good coaches and therapists and people talking about narcissism, people talking about whatever topic it is that you're interested in. There are people talking about, you can tell the ones that are like just ranting, but there are some really good ones that are doing good work, and that if that's at least helpful, I think, for the good ones.
I found it helpful. And it's what led me down the path that eventually led me to getting my own training and now being able to help people and building a community for people who um, want to live more aligned. So
Yes.
my Instagram
Yes.
handle's up there. Um, and that's where it initially led me. Is like I knew what was happening wasn't what I wanted, but I had no idea what I wanted, similar to how
Yes.
I talk to my friends. And
Yeah.
so it took me peeling away the things I didn't want. And then that gave more room for what the things that I was attracted to and that I did want more in my life.
Yes. I like that. That's really good. Even in just to sit down and make a list, right? Take stock of your life and even say, this is what I want, this is what I don't want anymore. And I think that what else you had said before that was really important was that looking at our situation, if you're thinking about something, maybe from your childhood, maybe from the past, whatever it is, right? If you keep thinking about that, time, that thing, then obviously it's bothering you to the point where you might need to have someone help you, process it. Because sometimes we need someone else to help us reframe that situation. It could be really super traumatic, or maybe it was just something that's like, this is like a hurdle or a bump in my life that I keep going over and over and over, and it feels like it's stopping me. And that the other thing that was important was that what I have gone through is no more or less important than what you have gone through. I have many friends who were in the shooting, but they've also gone through other things. So it's not like, oh, you were in the shooting. Okay, so this is the worst thing that's ever happened in the world. Yeah, but I went through a terrible divorce, and I'm allowed to feel bad about that. You know what I mean? Just
Mm-hmm.
and people have said to me, well, I didn't want to bring it up because, it's not as bad as what you went through. And it's like, oh my gosh, we have to have those safe friends we can talk to, or a safe professional we can talk to. That's why I like my professional because I want to be able to talk about my thing, that it might not be the shooting, but it was important to me. You know what I mean? That's
100%.
why,
And I let me be clear, like, I don't want to discourage
yeah,
anybody from
of
getting
course.
therapy if you can.
Yes,
I'm
of
just saying,
course.
don't let it, if you can't find or can't access
Yes,
therapy, don't let it get in the way of you starting your healing,
right, exactly.
because there's so many resources out there, and like books even, find a
Oh,
book
yeah.
that speaks to you and whatever you're going through.
Are you feeling trapped in a relationship that leaves you questioning your worth and sanity? Have you noticed the red flags and decided you can't live one more day in a toxic environment? Whether you've just left or are considering leaving a narcissistic partner, the book, Married to a Nice Guy, Getting Over Narcissistic Abuse, is here to guide and support you. In this candid memoir, I share my 33-year struggle in a marriage to a nice guy that was marked by emotional manipulation and abuse, revealing how I broke free and reclaimed my life. If you've been waiting for a sign, this book is it. If you've ever felt isolated, confused, or hopeless in your relationship, Married to a Nice Guy, Getting Over Narcissistic Abuse offers the understanding and guidance you need to break free and start your journey to healing. You are not alone, and you deserve a life filled with love, respect, and happiness. Order your copy today and take the first step towards reclaiming your life.
And you were saying something about, but it made me think of, like if you're feeling like something happened that you need to process. Another
Yeah.
clue is if you ever find yourself saying, well, that's just the way I am, like,
Yes.
and there's a certain personality trait or
Yes.
way that you have of dealing with things that you feel the need to say, that's
Well,
just the
that's
way it
just
is,
the way
deal
I
with
am.
it.
Yes.
That could be a clue, because a lot of times those ways of behaving are things that we develop to keep ourselves safe in certain
Okay.
situations. And so that might
Yes.
be a little clue of like, oh, maybe there's some work there that needs to be done,
Yeah.
because that's really what I'm mindful of, because I have plenty of those little quirks that I was like, well, that's just the way I am.
Right.
Oh, but why am I that way? Oh, okay. Maybe I don't have to be that way. Maybe that was a safety mechanism that I don't really need
Yeah,
anymore.
like a coping strategy of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, and it's true, but that takes some courage, right? To have to say, well, maybe I don't have to be that way. But I think it's beneficial, and that's why I want to encourage people to, there is such fruit on the other side of doing some work, and it might not even have to be giant work, or it might not even have to take forever to do it. It just might be thinking like that and going, wait, I guess I don't have to be that way. I was making excuses for a couple of people in my life, and my friend goes, do you hear yourself? And I was like, what? And she said, I mean, I do it too, but do you hear yourself making excuses for their behavior? And I was like, yes. How dare you call me out? But it's been something I've been really aware of, because when you know why people are the way they are, like that person's a jerk because of this reason.
Uh-huh.
But they had some trauma in their life. Insert the reasoning here. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm tired of making excuses for people who are treating me badly or whatever. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And so it was just kind of funny because my friend was like, do you hear yourself? And I was very thankful I was in a safe place, to do that. That's why you need those safe friends to
As
be
I
able to.
say, those friends are angels, the ones that will reflect back on it honestly. And
Yeah.
the friend that was the angel for me, it came towards the end of 2019. So I'd been dealing with all of the stuff in I call it like a slow stumble,
Okay.
because I was managing, but at lesser and lesser capacity. And then
Yeah.
at the end of 2019, my friend just looked at me. We were out for a walk and talking about life and everything that's going on. And she's just said, Debbie, I've taken time off work for far less than what you've got going on.
Wow.
And it was like a switch, that permission.
Yeah.
Wait, I can take time off for myself?
Yeah.
That's an option?
If I'm not feeling okay, I can take time off.
That's
Yeah.
that's an option?
Right.
So that was really where it started. And I feel like that's a good place for people to start too, is to give yourself
Yes.
permission to look at
Yes.
things differently and peel back some layers and start doing some of the work. It does sound scary at first and maybe
Yeah.
a little overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh, if I start feeling that stuff and picking at that
Yes.
stuff, I'm going to get
Yeah.
overwhelmed. I'm going to end up in a pit of despair.
Right.
That's really not how it works.
Right.
You do go through some ups and downs, but
You're right.
the process that they tell you to trust,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of fun sometimes, like, and interesting. If you're a person that likes puzzles and
Right.
understanding the whys behind different things, like, oh, that makes perfect sense why I behave like that. Or like
Yes.
we were talking about people, they are just the way they are. The example that's clearest to me is like the old curmudgeon,
Yes.
the man who had been hurt by life so much, he just
Yes.
like pushes everybody away.
Right.
And so that was the way he coped. That was how he kept himself safe from getting hurt. Now, how life could have been different if he had, let people closer,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's possible he let people closer and then they hurt him. But then processing that not everyone will hurt you, because I could have easily, after my divorce, just like, well, I'm just going to curl up in a ball and, which I did part of that, but
you can do that temporarily. Sure.
Right. Exactly. There are days for that. You know what I mean? There's days for the Netflix, there's days for the crying, and there's also days for you got to get out there and also moving my body. Cause that was a important one. I had a few friends who were like, hey, just exercise, because I've also, stuck in some old, thinking patterns of, well, exercise is only if you want to lose weight kind of thing. But it's like, no, you need some of those good endorphins happening in your brain. And that's something that I've talked to a few people about, is we have to remind ourselves when we're feeling super low, it doesn't feel like we should get up and move our body. But even getting outside, we're like a house plant. I've seen that analogy. We need some sunshine and some water and some oxygen.
And somebody to talk to us nicely.
Yes. I mean, we really are truly houseplants. I mean, we truly are. And it would really help if we did that. Well, and it's good to have those safe friends. That's important. That can mirror back, like you were saying, those angels in our life. So hold tight onto them and don't be so offended, right? I mean, you probably agree with this. Don't be so offended when people do say, why are you thinking like that? Or are you, Debbie, you can take time off. That'd be okay if you took time off. I had a principal. I was in the school district for 15 years, and I had a principal one day when I was sitting in the office crying because I was so stressed out. She goes, "Oh, maybe tomorrow you might be sick." And I was like, "You know what? I might be." That was it, because I didn't have to fake anything. I just had to call in and say I was quote unquote sick. It didn't matter why you were out. And so she's like, well, maybe tomorrow you're sick. And I go, you know what? I might be.
That was an angel giving you permission.
And it's so silly that as adults, we need permission, but it's true. It really is true. And I want to encourage people that like borrow our courage, borrow the things we've been through. If you don't feel like you have permission, we're giving you permission to take the time off and process some things. And it's not so scary. We can't guarantee it, but it's not so scary.
There are no guarantees.
I do like a good mystery. And so I have enjoyed unpacking some things, going, why am I like this? Why does Laura have a pattern? So
it's not painful. It can be uncomfortable at times, but it's definitely not painful. And we've talked a little bit about accessibility. And one of the things that was really important to me when I became a coach is that my services remain accessible.
Great.
So one of the first things I did, well, also I had an instructor in my coaching school that when we graduated, she said, build what you need. And that really stuck to
Oh,
me.
that's wonderful.
So at the
Yeah.
time I was really feeling, it was also shortly after the pandemic. It was 2021. So
Okay.
we're all feeling a little disconnected. I'm like, I want to build a community. I want to. So I started the podcast and did like a little offshoot community where it's really focused on personal development, personal growth, and taking care of ourselves, prioritizing ourselves, living aligned to our values. And I do a series of free workshops where I have some of the guest experts that are on my podcast or guest experts that are working in the personal growth and mindfulness space will come in and do workshops. And then I run challenges throughout the year. And that's all free. That's part of my way to help people just open the door of what does this mean to work on myself or give myself permission to do things differently or to question all that societal checklist of things we're supposed to do by a certain age.
And then you do them, and then maybe you even say, but I'm still not happy. So really start stopping and saying, what do I really want? Well, that takes a lot of courage because I know that I've done that. And but it feels so good when you can actually look at your life and go, you know what I want to do? I want to start a podcast. And then we figured out why. Well, because nobody's ever listened to me, Debbie. So guess what? Now everyone's got to listen to me.
Well, oh my gosh, me starting a podcast was one of the most challenging parts of my work. And that's part of it too. Like all of that is part of my work because I was raised in the household, like some of the childhood stuff that we didn't even touch on, but was like the household, children should be seen and not heard. So using my voice in any way was, oh wait, who am I? Like people don't want to hear from me. Like, and then just the actual, getting used to hearing your own voice. You're like, oh my gosh, that's what I sound like.
Yes, exactly. I know there's actually videos out on why you hate your voice on recording. It's like, oh, okay. Good. I mean, I get it. I've gotten over it at this point, but it's so funny because as I started unpacking things, you know, about what little Laura needed as I started doing some inner child work and stuff, I texted my media, the head of my media company, and I was like, I started a podcast because nobody would ever listen to me. And she's like, yep. Because she knows I've been trying to process things. It's amazing what we get into. And then I was a speech therapist before, so I taught people how to be heard.
That's awesome.
It's amazing, right? Do you have any recommendations on any books that you really like? I don't know if you can think of them off the top of your head.
Oh, no, I love books. One of the things I do in my community is we have a seasonal book club.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And we were, at first, when we started, it was all personal development. I was like, oh my gosh, we can't do this. Not every book is personal development. So now we rotate through. I think I've gotten to a schedule where we do a novel, then we do personal development, then we do like a social issue. And then our fall selection is always a banned book.
A banned book? What do you mean?
Like a book that has been banned by.
Oh, it's been banned. Okay, got it. Not B-A-N-D.
No.
B-A-N-N-E.
Yeah, we read about our favorite band. This year we'll be reading about Taylor Swift.
I was trying to figure it out. Okay. Oh, a banned book. Ooh. You're so crazy.
But books that I've read recently, one book that we read in book club, two books that we read in book club that I found very enlightening and helpful. This One Wild and Precious Life by Sarah Wilson.
Okay.
That's very much going to lead you down what am I doing? How do I want to live out my one wild and precious life? You know?
Yes. Wow.
And how I'm living my one wild and precious life impacting the world around me, which I think that's an element that I feel like a lot of coaches and podcasts don't touch on, but I'm very big on.
Yeah.
We are not getting better for the sake of being better for ourselves. We're getting better for the sake of being better for the world around us, like it all ripples out. The world is a better place if we're all taking care of ourselves, because we can take care of each other.
Yes, it's so true.
Stepping off my soapbox. The other
but it's true. It's true. I agree with you.
The other book club book that we read last summer was Rest is Resistance.
Okay. Oh,
which is really throws a wrench in the capitalist hustle mindset.
Yes.
And it sits with me and bubbles up all the time about, our worth being tied to how productive we are. And
yes. Oh my gosh.
Self-worth stuff is big when you're, doing the work.
Yeah, it is.
And then one that kind of ties the trauma topic up in a bow
or in a bowl.
I told you my mouth and my brain aren't really communicating today. The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate.
Oh, yes.
And he does a lot of work on trauma and how it affects our bodies, how it relates to addictions. But this one was like how it relates to our physical body. I don't know if you've ever read the book, How the Body Keeps the Score.
I actually have the book.
Yes.
Sitting right there.
This is right there. This is similar, but I thought it was a lot more easy to consume. I had a hard time getting through Body Keeps the Score, but
I noticed that it's very, it's kind of heavy. And I'm only like a chapter in, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know if this is what I was thinking.
The Myth of Normal is bigger. I found it easier to read, but I also did do the audiobook part-time.
Okay, yeah.
Which is fun because his son reads it.
Oh, okay.
His son reads it and he does voices. I love it.
Oh, that's so nice.
Like when he's talking in like a patient's voice, he'll do
like a okay, great. I love that.
I was like, that's kind of cheesy and I love it.
That's kind of cheesy. Well, those are some good options. I'll put those in the show notes because we always need resources, and always, if you can't afford to buy it, always check your library, because I live off of my library, the library app. I'm always downloading books and reading them and then listening to books. I love listening to audio.
I was going to say, and you can listen to books from the library too. That's huge.
I love it. I just love doing that. When they offer me, when there's no audiobook, I get so sad. And I know people use other paid things, but it's like, you can go to the library. Well, a lot of times, if it's brand new, they're not going to have it easily available. But a lot of times they do have it available. So it's very exciting. And that's a great resource. So where can everyone find you, Debbie, so that if they want to work with you?
Ooh, you know what? I need to say one more book, because it's really the book that kicked it all off. It was my daughter read it during 2020.
Yeah.
And she recommended it to me, and it was Glennon Doyle's Untamed.
Oh, yes.
And I remember reading that book, and as I was reading, I'm like, oh my gosh, my daughter read this. This is so freaking amazing. Like, I love that she read this book in her
how old
early
was she
20s.
when she was reading it?
20. Well, she was 20. In 2020, she was 20.
Wow. Yeah. I read it in 2020. I love it. I love it. It's one of those books I think you can reread. And then, of course, listening to her podcast and stuff. It's just so good because it really does. It made me feel wild. Wild.
Well, and it's empowering,
it's
right?
So empowering.
Like, this is your life. Like, step up and live it.
Yes.
You can do it. We can do it. We can do hard things.
That's right. We can do hard things. I'm telling you, I did not get very far into that book, and I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's so good.
Taking over the world.
I can do anything. No, but it's true, because just thinking about just little, things, ideas, I think it was the cheetah. Was it the cheetah that, the analogy, and you guys will have to read it or look up the analogy of the cheetah by Glennon. What is her last name?
Doyle.
Because it's so interesting. And that really touched my heart. I'm like, what am I doing? How am I living? You know what I mean? That 2020 started the end of my marriage anyway. So it was very significant for me to read that, because I was like, oh yeah, I can't live like this. You know what I mean? Like, you really want, I'm not saying you're going to get divorced. I'm not saying that, people. I'm just saying you're going to look at your life and go, I need to live, because, this is it. This is our life. So, oh, well, Debbie, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Where can everyone find you if they want to work with you?
I hang out on Instagram a bit more than I probably should. I don't post as much as I hang out there. But you can find me there. my community. I love spending time in the community and doing the events. So you can find the link in my bio and Instagram, or you can go to nwncollective.com.
And we're going to have all that in the show notes. Yeah, you gave us your website, so we'll put that in the show notes.
I don't have any freebie to give out, but I literally have 3 free events coming up in the next 3 months that are going to be amazing. Great. I don't know when you're posting this episode, but
it'll be longer than that. So
I will work on having more by the time
this
is posted.
By the time they hear this, you'll have to have more available. But that's okay. You don't always have to have a freebie. It's okay. But I'm sure they'll find your community, and I'm sure they'll find it useful, because we all need a place to get together to be able to talk about things and find our tribe. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And guys, if any of this resonated with you today, will you please go to Apple and Spotify and leave a review, and also go to social media and leave a comment on Debbie's picture, because I'll have Debbie's picture. Just look, wherever you see this or hear it or anything, just start typing things and say nice things so that podcast land knows you love us.
It's just a little bit of a comment and a like does such a difference for our darn algorithm.
It really does. It really does. That way podcast land knows that you like us. So we appreciate everybody listening. And thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is a great conversation.
I'm glad you were here. All right, guys, we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today on the That's Where I'm At podcast. Did the story today resonate with you? Do you think others would benefit from hearing the stories we are telling? Please go to Apple or Spotify right now to leave a review so everyone in podcast land will know you love the show. We want to continue sharing stories of hope and healing. I'll be back next time. I'll talk to you then.